Hi guys, my name is Nobu Kumalo. Welcome to my channel.
Yeah.
I hope you guys are doing great. Thank you so much for the warm welcome back and the reception of my last video, and thank you so much for the encouragement. A lot of you told me that you're happy to have me back and encouraged me to keep going, and that you understand why I'm choosing to keep some parts of my life off YouTube, and thank you so much. I didn't realize how impactful this has been in your lives, and to hear you guys say you're happy to have me back, to hear you guys encourage me to go on, is so heartwarming, especially after I had been dead silent for a while. Thank you so much for to all of you who subscribed, new subscribers, thank you for coming, and those who've been here for the longest time, for the shortest time, thank you for coming back to my channel. So I just realized that I've been doing this for about 8 months now, but I've actually never done a get to know me video, right? So I just came on here and I started telling you guys my business and trying to be wise and all that without actually introducing myself. And there are maybe some videos that have given glimpses of who I am, but I've never actually sat down in front of the camera to sort of formally introduce myself. I did at some point think it's not really necessary, I can just continue doing the videos, but I think it's important for people to know who they are talking to, to know who's talking to them, rather, let me put it that way. It helps to put things, a lot of things into perspective and to shape the context, and then maybe you also realize why I think the way I think and feel the way I feel based off my upbringing and the context in which I was raised in. And I think sometimes when you know a little bit more about who a person is, how far they've come, you kind of feel like you can relate to them better than when you've got this image that you formed in your head. And I also feel it's important to do this so that I can address some misconceptions that you might have, maybe inadvertently, because I don't know what misconceptions you might have, but maybe there's a certain image that you formed of me in your head that might not necessarily be true. Maybe, for example, you think I came from a well-up family, which may not necessarily be true, maybe you think I've been in the UK all my accent gives it away, I definitely haven't been here all my life, but there's so many things that you might have thought just based off my videos which might not really be true. And so I decided to do this get to know me video. So when I decided to do this, I ran it past my husband as usual. I was like, yeah, I'm thinking of doing a get to know me video, what do you think? And he's like, yeah, it's a great idea, so what are you gonna be talking about? And I was like, about myself. Then it's like, who are you? And I was like, it's not that deep, bro. Because when I thought about it, I thought I was just gonna sit in front of the camera and just talk to you guys, and then now he's making it sound deep. So I don't have anything deep to say because I didn't think that far. I just thought let's have this as an informal chat, So who am I? All right, my full name is Nobubele Kumalo. Kumalo is my married surname, of course, but my maiden surname is actually Sivanda. I am a 27-year-old and I live in London, United Kingdom. I am married, as clear from my married surname, and I am the second born in a family of 2 kids. So I have an older sister, and both my parents are still alive, my mom and my dad. My mom is a teacher, secondary teacher, also used to be an university lecturer, and my dad is a pastor. So I was born in Bulawayo. I almost say it the bougie way that people say it, I was born in Bulawayo, but I was born in Bulawayo in Zimbabwe, born and bred there. I did my primary education back in Zim, and one important thing that I left out, I am a Christian, by the way, a Seventh-day Adventist Christian. Some of you who've watched my vlogs might have picked that up from me saying it's Sabbath, etc. So yes, I'm a Seventh-day Adventist Christian, born and bred in Bulawayo. I did my primary education at an Adventist school called Fairview Adventist Primary School in Bulawayo. And then at some point we moved to Solusi University because my dad was working there for a bit in one of the administrative posts there, and we stayed there for about 2 years. And then after that we moved back to Bulawayo and I moved back to Fairview. primary school, which is where I finished up my primary school. And then for high school, I went to another Adventist high school. I went to Anderson Adventist High School in Mvuma, Gweru. Man, those were some of the best years of my life. I will not even lie to you. High school, particularly the high school that I went to, for me, was one of the best high school, experiences of my life. That is where I sort of came into singing. So I always knew I could sing. I sang in primary school and all that, but it wasn't to the same level as I did in high school. Because it was an Adventist boarding school, there was a lot of time to, get into choirs and groups and singing and all that. And that's one of the highlights of my high school activities. So at some point I was in, I think, about 10 groups at the very same time. I don't know where I got the time to do that, but I was in it. And one of the groups that is still dear to me is this trio that me and two of my friends did. We were called Harmony. And I remember we at some point even went to competitions, allied arts competitions, and we got an honors grade for our trio. We sang there and got an honors grade, and so I always kind of brag about that. I was also in the church choir school, which doubled up as a school choir for a bit. And we also went to the national, I don't remember what the official name, but it was like the National High School Choir Competition, something like that. And the one year we literally were the champions. In the first year that we went for those for that competition, we were actually the champions as the choir. Man, it was amazing. That is the place that gifted me some of my dearest friends, people who I'm still in touch with to this date, which is like 9 years after I left, because I finished in 2013. I was there from 2008 to 2013. So it gifted me some of the dearest people in my life. It gifted me my best friend. We were roommates for a bit when she was in lower 6 and I was in upper 6, and I was a prefect at that time. Yeah, that was Anderson. I could go on and on and on. That is where I preached a lot as well, sort of like gained confidence to speak like this. Came from that. I had quite a few preaching engagements. I learned to lead through being a prefect and through leading other smaller church clubs and organizations. It really was arguably the best period of my life, especially spiritually. I think it really grounded me. Granted, because it was a boarding school, it's not like I had an option. I couldn't exactly say I don't want to do church, or it wasn't optional. So whether you were an Adventist or not, if you were at that school, you had to attend all the devotions in the mornings and the evenings. You had to attend Wednesday prayer services, Friday prayer services, and Sabbath, the full day of services. But it really solidified and grounded me in my faith and in my beliefs, and that is where I was baptized as well. So yeah, that was high school and Adventist school. And funny fact, although I am a lawyer, did I say I'm a lawyer? I'll get to that. I actually did sciences for my O's and my A levels. So I was that science kid, because how it was done in my high school was that when you got to the end of Form 2, teachers and departmental heads would kind of sit down and sort of try and figure out who fits where. So if you're an all-rounder student, they would put you in the sciences class. And then if you're good and stronger in commercials only, maybe they'll put you in commercials. And then if you're stronger in arts or those types of subjects, you go to the arts. So I was an all-rounder at the time, and they put me in the sciences class. And obviously, being an African kid, science is other-ish, right? Even our parents, they want to have a doctor for a child. So I was happy with that. Went up for my sciences, did my O-levels, did great, came back for my A-levels, did maths, biology, and chemistry, wrote my exams. I passed. I didn't pass by 15 points or anything, but I passed well enough. And at that time, during the awkward period between finishing exams and results coming up, so that's between November and February, I watched a lot of Suits, right? And I quite enjoyed it, right? And I thought, this is fun. This looks like something I could do. But besides that, I also, because of my personality, I think, and the things that interested me, I did kind of feel like I do have an art side in me, right? So anyway, I watched arts, and I remember I went to Botswana to visit my aunt and uncle in Bots. Results came out. Before results came out, I told my dad that I think I want to study law, right? And my dad is like, where is that coming from? Because as far as I've known you, you've been a science kid all your life. Are you afraid that maybe you failed your exams and you're trying to look for plan B? I'm like, no, that's not the case. And then he was like, let's just wait for results to come and we'll see. So results come and I've passed. I'm like, cool, going to South Africa to apply. In my heart, I knew that I still want law. But when I went to South Africa, I went to someone who was going to apply for sciences stuff. And I got there and I applied for pharmacy and biomedical sciences. And then when I went to the University of Pretoria, tax, in my form, there was option 1 and option 2. And I decided, you know what, stuff it. I'm going to write LLB as my option 1. And then I wrote biomedical sciences option 2. And then my dad was away at that time. I wrote him a long email saying, you know, I know that we spoke about this and I know you think maybe I'm not sure, but I feel like I really want to study law. And so I applied for law. I also did apply for pharmacy and all that other stuff, but I just wanted you to know that I applied for law and that if it comes back with a positive result, I think I might want to take it. Anyway, my mom later tells me that my dad, you know, sent her that email, and my dad was like, you know what, maybe let's just let the kid do what she wants to do, because we don't want her to one day come back and be like, you guys forced me into something. So long story short, I got accepted for law and pharmacy as well, but I went with law, moved to the University of Pretoria, and that is when I moved to South Africa, when I moved for my university education. Got there and I thought like I had to prove something, because I had sort of like forced my way into doing sciences, into doing arts, into doing law and moving from sciences. So I felt like I needed to prove myself to myself and to my dad, sort of say, look, I'm doing this law thing, but it's actually working out. I wasn't wrong when I said I wanted this. And so I got in there and I like just pushed, and I generally was a high flyer, Dean's Merit List, one of you best student in this module for, you know, 1 or 2 modules, joined the Golden Key Honor Society in my first year. And yeah, basically that was, you know, my university education. And then when I was in my 3rd year, I came across this African clerkship opportunity for the firm that I used to work at called Linklaters, and it was an international firm. And I remember telling my dad about it, and my dad was like, are you sure? What if this is like a human trafficking thing? Because like, why would such an, you know, an international firm randomly want students from South Africa? But it had come through the official university channels, and at that time I was the head of academics for the student body of the law faculty. So I was quite heavily involved in organizing the pitch day, in which, you know, representatives from this firm would come to the university and speak to the students. And after that, there was an evening reception program where students from UP, UJ, WITS went to the Alliance firm, which is where we went to South Africa. We went for like a cocktail evening where we had a few people answer our questions and just a networking thing. So I kind of, you know, I kind of knew what was up. I knew what was happening. And so then I applied for it myself. And then after a few months, I got the internship. Came to the UK in 2017 November, and I was here for a month. And at the end of that month, I got an offer for a final job offer after I'd finished my studies. So I went back to South Africa and finished my final year. That was 2018. And then I moved to the UK in 2019 in January. So now, because I had a foreign law degree, South African law degree, I couldn't straight up practice law in the UK. Also because I was just out of school, so it's not like I had a foreign one, then I practiced in South Africa, then I was trying to move. If I had done that, I would have been able to move straight up, but I was coming straight from school, so I had to do conversion courses for like about 9 months, and then that took me to the end of September. And then I went back to Zim in September, and then I got married in October. On October 6th in 2019, I got married to my husband, who we had been dating for 4 years at that time. And yeah, so we tied the knot in 2019 on the 6th of October. And come 2020, now I'm supposed to move back this side. And the plan was that my husband was going to join me once I start work in September of 2020. So the plan was that he was going to come visit me using a visit visa, right, for a few months. I was still a student again. There were more courses to do before I started school. So he was going to visit me on a visit visa, and then he'd go back to South Africa. My husband was working in South Africa at that time, and then he would finally join me and move to, you know, move to the UK at the, you know, when I was starting work in September. So he came, literally, I think he landed on like the end of January, and like, how many weeks later, I don't remember how many weeks later, COVID hit. So he got stuck here. Thank God he got stuck here. and he was working remotely, so work wasn't affected at that time. And so his visa was a 6-month visa, the usual standard visa. But because COVID, you remember how when COVID started, it was like 2 weeks, then it was like 2 extra weeks, then it was like maybe a month, then maybe by June would be. And COVID was relentless, it was not giving up. So eventually they allowed people to apply for visas from within the country. So ordinarily he would have had to go back and then apply from outside the country and then come back in. But because of travel restrictions and all that, they, you know, allowed us, you know, and him to apply from within the UK. So I applied for his visa, and then, you know, he just continued staying on, and then we've been, you know, living here since then. So then I started work in September 2020, and I did 4 rotations at my previous law firm. I did leveraged finance, I did energy and infrastructure law, I did corporate law, like mainstream corporate, and then I did financial regulation. Maybe it's a video for another time for me to talk you through, you know, what it takes to get to qualification. But I think I actually did a video on this. I think my second of last video might have been me talking about the journey to becoming an attorney. So check that one out. So I did that, and then in September I became a qualified attorney, a qualified solicitor in the language of, you know, this side. And yeah, so now I'm a qualified solicitor, and I specialize in financial regulation, particularly in relation to financial institutions. So we advise financial institutions on a range of things. Because of the, you know, previous financial crash, financial institutions are heavily regulated. So if a financial institution, for example, wants to invest in something, there are quite a number of notifications and, you know, hoops that they need to jump through before they can go ahead. Things like pension funds, your insurance companies, your banks, we handle all those things in the financial institutions group. So that is me. That is a long but short snippet of my life, and maybe I want to, you know, talk a little bit more about my actual growth, not my career path, but like my growth. So I said earlier that I'm the second of 2. I have an older sister who is 3 years older than me, 3-ish, 4-ish. She's actually turning 31 in Christmas. I once did a video with her and her husband. Hopefully I'll link it up somewhere if I don't forget. And my mom was a teacher and my dad a pastor, and that has been my reality for the longest time. You know, I'd always get questions about how does it feel being a pastor's kid? Do you feel restricted as a pastor's kid, etc.? And it's all I've ever known. That's what I always tell people. I don't have something to compare it with, right? So when you say, do I feel restricted? Do I feel like there's more pressure on me because I'm a pastor's kid than if I wasn't? I do not know, because all I've ever known is me being a pastor's kid. So I was born and raised in the church as a pastor's kid with the same level, and that's what has formed my worldview. So my thinking, my actions, and everything have always been with the thought and the recognition that because I'm a pastor's kid, I kind of have to behave a certain way. And thankfully, it hasn't felt like the front that I have to put up, right? To say, oh, because everyone's watching, I need to behave this way. It's just how my parents brought me up, the values that they instilled in me, and as I came of age, how I decided to continue to define myself, because quite a few pastors' kids, they feel the pressure, and then once they, you know, sort of like get out of the nest, they, you know, rediscover, for lack of a better way to put it, rediscover themselves and decide to maybe go a separate way. They could decide to leave the church or still be in the church, but different worldviews, a whole lot of things. But my parents raised me a certain way, and I became of age. I gained my own convictions as well, which still influence the way I think and the way I behave. And speaking about, you know, becoming of age, so I moved to South Africa when I was 19, turning, you know, 20 to uni. And in university I stayed in Res. And when you stay in Res, and this is my first time learning at a non-Christian or religious organization. Remember, I've done my primary and my high school in a strictly Adventist school. Now I'm thrown in the deep end at the University of Pretoria in South Africa, of all places. You come to realize how different the world is, how different people are, how people believe in a lot of things, and how there are some people who do not believe in anything, how certain things that wouldn't fly in your parents' households we have kids whose parents, you know, help them do those things. It was such a defining period in my life, because I had to sit myself down and think, what type of a person do I want to become? Who do I want to be? Here in these 4 years here, when I'm away from home, when I'm staying in res, I could make or break myself, right? Because there was so much freedom to do and explore and be anything that I wanted to be. And so I had to sit myself down and ground myself and say, this is what you know, this is how you've been raised and been taught, and is the right way. You're an adult now. How are you going to take what you know forward? You know, how are you going to apply the things that you know going forward? Are you going to apply them? Are you going to abandon them? Are you going to, you know, live in the way that you were trained to live, or are you going to completely abandon and form your own identity? And so I always say this to my mom, that I feel I identify a lot with South Africa, because that is where I became an adult. That is where I was for the first time alone and had to make my own decisions and chart my own path without anyone holding my hand, without anyone asking me why are you home late, without, you know, anyone asking, did I go to church? You know, am I even still going to church? Do I still do ABCD? That is where I was alone and had to deal with myself and establish and chart a path for my life. And so those years were also an amazing period. That's when I also met, you know, quite a few of my very close friends. I actually think about it now that, you know, when I go home, like I did right now in the past few months, when I go to South Africa, I'm always busy. I have tons of people to see. I have, you know, tons of friends. And then when I go home to Zim, to Blawayo, there's no one there, because the friends that I have are mostly people that were my friends in high school, and people have moved on. Some are not even in Blawayo anymore, right? So people moved on, people got married, moved away, some, you know, went to uni and never came back. So when I go home to Blawayo, yes, I do have a few, you know, friends from church, but there's this void, you know, that because people did university and life together in Blawayo whilst I was away. And so when I go back, there's this void. But when I'm in South Africa, that's where, like, my mates, you know, those people who were trying to figure out life together with, and so I feel quite a huge attachment to South Africa. So yeah, I hope this has kind of helped you realize who I am, who's always talking to you. So when I speak a lot about principles from the Bible, or how I view things based on you know, believing in God and all that, I hope you understand the lens through which I see things, which is the lens of being brought up in a Christian home, not just a Christian home, a Seventh-day Adventist home, not just a Seventh-day Adventist home, but a pastor's home, you know. But I'm grateful that as much as I have been born and bred in the church, I've had, through uni, through moving to the UK and seeing how the things are, I've had an opportunity to see the world in the eyes of other people, right? To not be blinkered, you know. And I think moving to a non-Adventist institution was good for me in that sense, that it exposed me to the world, and I began to see how people think differently, how people believe differently. And I've come to realize that there's certain things that are preferences that are not necessarily wrong, or right and wrong, right? Because sometimes we are brought up to think that our way is the only way, and that anyone who does anything any different to how we do it is wrong. But I've come to realize that there are a lot of the things that we know, believe, and the way we act that are just pure preference, and that there are other people who have different preferences also. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. If you're not yet subscribed, please subscribe. Thank you for the encouragement. Please continue to share. Please continue to engage. And maybe one of these days I'm gonna do a Q&A thing. I'll probably do it here on YouTube because I have a private Instagram account. So maybe I'll post a picture and, you know, do a little ask me anything. Maybe not anything, but yeah, a Q&A thing in which you guys can actually ask what you'd want to know about me. But for today, I think I've tried to do a little bit justice into this get to know who Nobu Kumalo is. So thanks again. I'm gonna see you guys next time. Goodbye.